My knees hurt
Okay,
me
we're
and my
on.
back's hurting.
Okay, we're going to come to order. Today is the Wednesday, February 17th, regular meeting of the Glendale Planning Commission. Could we have roll, please?
Commissioner Landrigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Sheets,
Here.
Commissioner Yesayan, and Chairperson Kane.
Here. Report regarding posting of agenda.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on Wednesday, February 10th, 2010, on the bulletin outside City Hall.
Thank you. Would everyone rise and please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any comments, corrections, or, well, anything else to be said for the minutes of February 3rd?
I move that we accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion and support. Call roll for acceptance of the minutes, please.
Commissioner Landrigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheets,
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye, and a vote of 4-0. The minutes of February 3rd have been approved. We're going to go, agenda item 5, oral communications. I have no cards for that. We're going to go a little bit out of order in an effort to have our 5th commissioner join us shortly. So with that said, we're going to move to agenda item 7A. It's old business. It's a zoning code amendment case PZON 2009-001. It's citywide, and it's amendments to Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to solar energy equipment. My understanding is that we're being asked to continue this.
Yes, Chairman Kane, based on a communication from the State Attorney General's office, Mr. Garcia would like the opportunity to develop a response, and based on his availability and the possible need to make some amendments, depending on what the outcome is, staff is recommending that the matter be continued to April 21st, 2010, without further public notice. And you do have a copy of the communication from the state, I believe.
Yes. We have no speaker cards on it, by the way. So any comments or questions from commissioners?
I'll make the motion.
I second.
A motion support. Before calling roll,
Commissioner Landrigan.
I said before calling roll. I'm sorry. I just have to editorialize, and I guess what we're seeing is a letter from the state attorney telling us that communities don't have rights, and it'll be very interesting to decide if the state attorney general decides to run for the governorship, how he defends that. But we'll move on. We have a motion and support. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Landrigan. Aye. Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheets,
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye, and so on a vote of 4-0, PZ zoning code amendment case PZON 2009-001 is continued to April 21st, 2010, without further notice. We'll move on to agenda item 7B, zoning code amendment case PZON 2009-007. It's citywide, and it's amendments to Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code related to design review. The recommendation is that Planning Commission review the amendments and provide a recommendation to City Council. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Chairman Kane, members of the Planning Commission. There were some changes made to the design review standards and procedures approximately 2 years ago, March 2008. And as we like to do, we keep track on how that's working. And based on the input from staff that has to deal with on a day-to-day basis with design review cases, they recommended some changes and some clarifications. So the planning staff went to both of the design review boards, held a study session with each one of them, took their comments plus our recommendations to the City Council at a study session and got their input. So what you see tonight is the result of that. These are the items that the City Council asked us to make amendments on. So without further ado, I will itemize those. First item is allow a third final review at the discretion of the Design Review Board. This is probably the biggest change. 2 years ago, we made the change to only allow for 2 attempts under the same case to get approval at the Design Review Board. It turns out there are some cases that had, with some minor changes, would have been better off being reviewed one more time as opposed to being approved with a long list of conditions or perhaps even denied. So it's the recommendation of the boards and the staff that, and I guess council as well, that we add the possibility of a third review. In other words, at the second final review, the Design Review Board will have the option, instead of just approving with conditions or denying, they'll have another opportunity to vote on return for redesign. Okay. Not a substantial change, but, and again, it'll be up to the boards as to how often they exercise that, but that was the concept, just to go to a third review when they felt that the applicant had made a serious effort and had come close enough, but yet they felt they needed to see the final design one more time. The second item is allow staff to schedule a hearing before the DRB without the property owner's consent when construction differs from approved plans. This is something that probably won't happen very often, because ultimately the property owners have to resolve the discrepancies. What normally happens is they'll either make the corrections or apply themselves. This is an opportunity for the Director of Community Planning to, in some rare cases, speed things up by going directly to the Design Review Board to get their input and perhaps avoid some stalling tactics on the part of the property owner out there in the field when things have gone pretty much big time wrong from the approved plans. So, again, I don't expect this will happen a lot, but it's one of the additional enforcement tools that I think staff would like to see us take advantage of in some situations. Again, it's only going to be when there's significant changes out there in the field and we seem to be at some impasse and the property owner or the applicant or the contractor, whoever, isn't really moving. Third item, revised code language on preliminary design review. This is just some subtle cleanup to make it clear that preliminary design review only involves making comments. It's not, again, the code's pretty clear right now that the comments made at preliminary design review are not an approval. So we didn't feel we need to strengthen that anymore, but we changed some of the wording to not be so confusing. Next bullet point, additional submittal requirements such as plantings at maturity and sightlines for hillside development, as well as withholding hearing dates when required submittals are tardy or lacking. Well, the last part, we already can withhold cases from the agenda if they're incomplete. So we didn't make any changes there, but we did add the when there's landscape plans as part of the proposal, that they indicate the anticipated height of or size of the plants at maturity when that involves new planting. Obviously, some projects involve maintaining a certain amount of existing landscaping. And also on hillside development, so we can get some sightline studies if they're appropriate as part of the submittal package. That's something that is very useful in a lot of these hillside cases. So we've added language to make that part of the submittal requirements. And the next involves a couple of different things. Assorted design review code changes to allow a longer period, 6 months versus 3 months, for applicants to return for redesign without being considered a new application, to clarify the regulations as to when public notice signs and story poles must be removed, and to clarify that exempt status is only for addition or alteration as proposed and not for all future changes, and to indicate that construction beyond or different from approved plans is a violation of the zoning code. Again, most of this is just cleanup language, making it clear when public notice signs and story poles have to be removed. But there is a change in the submittal dates. Right now, you have 90 days. If you get a return for redesign decision, you have 90 days to come back to file. Doesn't have to be heard within 90 days. You have 90 days to file the next application. Otherwise, you're starting as a new case, and all the old comments really, even though they're relevant, they're not, DRB isn't bound, not limited to just apply those comments. Apparently, staff feels in working with applicants that 180 days is a little more realistic. So we're proposing to change the 90 days to 180 days. So between the first submittal and the second one and the potential third one, be 180 days maximum. Otherwise, if it's filed after that, it's a new case and you're starting all over again, and staff is free to make different comments. Design Review Board's free to make different comments. Not a big change. Still has some limits on it, ultimate limits. Potentially could lengthen the process, but 90 days is a pretty short time for some of these bigger projects to come back. So staff thought that was a little more realistic. And again, the other is more clarification, and we've added language, again, to help in enforcement, so we can, even though violations, when somebody does something that's inconsistent with approved plans or design review board approval, it is a violation, but we want to be able to point to a sentence that says that, so that's all we're doing. It doesn't really change anything, but the sentence we picked was projects that do not conform to designs approved by a review authority and/or city staff shall be considered a violation of this code. Again, that helps in enforcement. One other item that the planning director of community planning wanted added, more enforcement again when things go bad, is to be able to put a stop work order on a job in addition to the building official. Right now the process is working, but there might be a time when it's more expedient for the Director of Community Development to actually issue the stop work order. So what we're proposing, and I can hand out the draft language.
Because that's not in the report. You
No,
gave us
it's
yet.
not in the report.
That was one of the questions I had.
No.
Good.
No, it's not in the report. It's something the director's been talking about for a while. So this would be a new section in Title 30, proposing Section 30.64.015, stop work orders. And it would read something like, in addition to the building official, the Director of Community Planning shall have the authority to place a stop work order on a project that has been authorized by a building permit, sign permit, or swimming pool permit, and is not being constructed in a manner that is in compliance with approved plans and/or the various requirements of Title 30, including but not limited to design review requirements. Again, I don't anticipate that this is going to happen a lot. Most of the time we'll go to the building official, but it's there for selected cases when, in the opinion of the Director of Community Development, it's expedient for him or her to issue the stop work order. More clarification than anything. Again, the big changes are the potential third submittal requirement and the 180 days versus the 90 days. Although for some people, sightline study on a hillside new house might be a big deal, although we do have cases where the Design Review Board has asked for that anyway, because they do have the authority to ask for things to clarify, so this makes it more clear up front. If the staff thinks that that's going to be useful, they can ask for it. So with that, I'll ask if there are any questions. Staff is recommending approval of the draft, and with the addition of this stop work order. Some of the other changes that I haven't mentioned, they're just punctuation issues and some housekeeping, but no standards changes or procedural changes. So, are there any questions?
Questions from the Commission? Ms. Landrigan?
Mr. Kraus, just one question I have. The 90 days to file, and you said 180 days maximum, is that total 90 and 90, or is that?
No, it's right now, if you, it only applies if you get a return for redesign decision. Otherwise, you have a decision. So if it's returned for redesign right now, the way the code is, you must file your next application within 90 days of the date of the DRB's decision to be really the same case, which is only significant in terms of the Design Review Board is obligated to only focus on those conditions that they made and how the applicant addressed those conditions, as I'm sure you're aware of. Fees are the same. If you come back on day 91, new case number, and you're back to an A submittal, which most of the time it's not that critical anyway. But, if you come back much later, you might have a different DRB board composition, and some of the new members might feel differently. Right now, the way the code is, if you come back within the specified time, you really can't have any different opinion. I mean, you can not vote to approve it, but you can't really say, well, the previous comments didn't address roof materials. There's no way I'm going to think that that's appropriate. Well, you can't really introduce that at that time, although you don't have to vote for the project. So that's the danger of somebody going beyond the 90 days is now you're essentially starting all over again. So this will be, instead of the 90 days, it's 180 days to file and still be the same case. Okay? So you go to B submittal within 180. If the DRB decides to see it a third time, in other words, another second return for redesign, then you have to come back again within another 180 days. It's a new 180 days.
Okay.
So that does stretch it out a bit for a third submittal. That's the only disadvantage of this, is you could be going as close as a year. But the other possibility is that this, regardless of the time period, it's all neutral, that it's not affecting what applicants do anyway. I mean, I think that's true too. Some applicants are not affected by these deadlines anyway. They're either going to do it or they're not, and they're not worried about these deadlines. But it does affect, after 180 days, does affect your public noticing and all that too. So there is some incentive to come back sooner.
Mr. Lee, you had a question?
I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
I think along the same line. Obviously, this 180 days extension from 90 was due to maybe some of these larger projects. Now, is this 180 days catch-all for all projects, regardless of the size of the project?
Yes, all projects.
All projects.
All projects.
Mr. Loomis, you had something to add?
Yeah, if I may interject on the issue of the 180 days and explain a little bit more where the intent comes from. What is happening now that we have urban designers and the planning staff are working extensively with the applicants, which is not something we did prior to the latest round of substantive DRB changes. What's happening is that sometimes applicants are spending a lot of time working with staff trying to understand and refine their projects based on the last round of DRB comments, and they're still in the process of making a good faith effort of preparing a new application when that 90-day clock expires. So extending it out 180 days simply gives applicants a little more time to work with staff to develop their second application that would meet with the board to the board's satisfaction. So that's kind of why we propose to extend it.
All right, thank you.
As Alan indicated, there's lots of times there's meetings, and you can't always meet with the planner that day or the next day, so there is some give and take. Sometimes it takes longer to do that and then get back to the drawing board. So there's that. So that would apply to sometimes smaller projects take a while to refine the design as well. So it happens.
I had a quick question along the third review. Are there costs associated with each one of those?
Yes.
So the third, and that's
Same
the direction of the board as far as whether they're going to get a third one. Can they request it, or is it something the board decides?
Well, the applicant can request it, but if the board's it doesn't affect the board's decision. Right now, they have the authorities to do it or not do it. It's the spirit of it will be, hey, you're close enough, but not so close that we are just going to condition it. We need to see it one more time.
What are those costs approximately? Do you know offhand? I don't. It's not critical. I just.
Dennis, do you know what the current? There's different fees whether it's single family or not. It's several $100s, though,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
And the fee for the first, second, and third submittal is all the same.
Okay. And on the second item, as far as follow-up, is there a type of follow-up relative to our concern as to how do we find out that it was being done wrong or incorrectly? And then do we follow up on that to make sure that it's not being continued?
Well, we have building inspectors and we have planners. On everything but single-family, planners only go out there at the very end of the project. So you're relying on the building inspector, everything up to that point. On single-family development, we have framing inspection, so we're out there a little earlier on single-family houses. So we have the potential of catching it. But if the case planner's driving by, or we hear something from a neighbor, which is often the case, we'll go out there and see what's going on, or ask the building inspector to verify, because building inspector isn't out there all the time either. So obviously, at some point you have to let people finish the job. So the stop work order is only temporary till there's some resolution as to are you not going to change the project back to the way it's approved, or are you going to go back to the design review board with the changes that you've made? So let's come to some understanding as to what you're going to do.
I think, following up on that exact thing, I think that process should be a little better defined, or should be defined, period. I mean, when the building official red tags something, it's pretty clear on what they have to do to get it removed. You fix it, then you call for reinspection, and so on. And again, I realize it's still going to be the exception to the rule, but nonetheless, when it does occur, what is the process that somebody that's been red tagged by the planning official, what is their process to get it removed? How are hearings scheduled? How are conversations had? And then what's the formal process by which the tag is then removed?
Yeah, we didn't discuss details. My anticipation is it'll be as if the building official did it. So there'll be no difference.
Well, okay, but what's that process?
Well, you contact us.
You can't call for reinspection like you would with the building department.
Well, in a sense you can, yeah. If you see that the framing has been done differently, then you come to some understanding. Are you going to go back to the approved plans, or are you going to go back to the design review board? Pick A or B if it's something simple like that. Okay, it's going to go back to the design review board. Okay, well, then the stop work order stays. If you're going to, okay, well, I agree to fix it. Okay, well, then we lift the stop work order.
I'm just saying that needs to, I don't want to say codified, but let's use that word, that needs to be formalized, rather,
I'm
in terms
sure
of what
it
that
will be.
process is.
Right, I'm sure the planning director will get together, or someone on the staff to get together with the building official to work out the details.
I see that issue on that item and the one that you gave us, because I've had incidents personally where it just seems odd to me that we stand back and if we're lucky enough to identify it's being done wrong.
Yeah.
It seems to me, just in the items that I've been aware of, that like the case you just described, if the inspector went out and said, as opposed to saying, are you going to do this, it should be more like, here's what you will do. You're out of compliance. This is incorrect. You'll fix it. Should you not fix it, this is what you'll do. And by the way, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll be back in 5 days. I don't know what's appropriate there, but I'm of the opinion that once they've done it wrong, I mean, I know mistakes happen, but sometimes in cases that I'm aware of, it's done illegally. It's done incorrect, and for whatever reason, to cut corners, and maybe assuming that it would get by. So all I'm trying to do is amplify the point that I think we need to define it, as Mr. Kane stated, and give a clear process all the way to the end what will happen, and make them aware of that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what will happen.
Okay.
Again, the anticipation is we're not going to abandon the building officials' authority to put stop work orders on projects, so that's not going to happen.
Ms. Landrigan, you had something?
Yes. I served on the design review board for 6 years, and I know that there have been several instances in which it was impossible to stop work that was not in conformance with the approved plans, and then when they came back. And actually, the zoning code, I don't think, should indulge in process, because process and guidelines should be a little flexible. If they don't work, you should be able to manipulate them. If you codify them, so to speak, you lose that flexibility. So if you'll look at the landscape design guidelines and other guidelines, they are able to have that flexibility of being interpreted and changed. And I think we can ask for those, but I don't think they should be in the code.
I understand what you're saying. I worry about the subjective nature then of it. If you're gonna red tag a property and stop work on a property, there needs to be a clear process. There can still be flexibility within the process. There can be, either ors and things like that. But this is an example. First, I'm really glad that you've come up with the idea, because in my review of the changes, one of the things I was saying, well, that's really great. What about the ability to red tag? And then lo and behold, you come up with this process. It still needs to be fleshed out before you go to council. This is a great first step. Just listen to what we're saying. Think through. First of all, there's no link to penalties either at this point. Through the building official department, if you get red tagged and you refuse to respond, civil things kick in. I don't see this link completed yet in terms of this verbiage.
Right.
There may have to be, I mean, there are different places you can put this. The zoning code, another part of the Glendale Municipal Code, the Glendale Building Code, or all three. So we thought, since the concern was mainly not complying with design review approved plans, that let's put it in Title 30 to at least people have a better chance of seeing it, even if it gets put somewhere else as well.
I don't think we need to micromanage that here. Again, we're making a recommendation to council. You're hearing what we're saying. We're going to come together and make a recommendation. You just need to make note of this is a great starting point. It just needs to be fleshed out where you park it and how you put the bow around it. Other comments, please?
One more. I'm pleased to see that you're asking for the mature
Trees.
tree and a shrub growth, but one of the things that I think we need to still consider is that there should be in the code some place where it says maintenance shall not interfere with landscaping reaching its mature growth. And because it is a living thing, and if you have individuals who don't have a maintenance plan, I can give you two examples up right off of Florencita, which is actually not in Glendale, it's in the county. There are 4 oak trees that are the size of this microphone in growth. They're 20 years old because they have improperly pruned them, so they would never grow. So there needs to be some element in there. If you're going to ask for mature size and growth and assume that it is going to get there, it needs to be further elaborated so that maintenance works in concert with that as opposed to being used against it.
Okay, we've gone back and forth from some questions and comments to just let's continue on with any comments, observations that we each may have. Ms. Landrigan, were there further comments that you wanted to add? Were you prepared to? We can continue on.
I think I had one comment about the preliminary design review, where it stated that it's not an approval. It's an option, am I correct? It's not a requirement.
Right. Preliminary design review is optional. It's not a requirement. It was for a few years in the middle years of design review.
I remember it fondly. I thought it was very helpful.
Some of us didn't remember it so fondly.
Depends on what side you're on, doesn't it?
Yeah, the applicants didn't use it the way it was intended to be used.
No, they intentionally bypassed it, and that because they thought they could.
Yeah, they essentially were providing finished drawings just like they did before, and so you really didn't have a true preliminary review in those days, and so we just decided this isn't working. Let's make it optional again like it was originally.
Well, and my comment on that is that site planning is totally a lost art, and it's really evident in the design review process. There is no place to do site planning where you come in and you approve the siding of the building and the siding of it based upon the lot and all of the topography there. It comes in, it's already planned, and so any changes that are made are considered a burden. And I see that as being a real loss at doing something the right way. Just would like to state that.
Mr. Lee?
So my last comment is that I'm still stuck on that 180 days in that, I think our responsibility, or city's responsibility, is really streamline the project, speed the project along. And by, allowing another 90 days, we're really extending the projects out, and I think it should not be a really catch-all type of time period. But if the project is a need for specific, that requires 180 days. I think it should be that. But I think if you tend to give them 6-month lead time, you just calculate that into be a project, and just project gets longer and longer, and we'd like to really see the projects move along, and I think that's the only thing that bothers me right now. Really, that extension of that 180 days.
All right. Mr. Sheets, any further comments?
Nothing further.
All right. Please let the record show that Mr. Usayan has joined us. Was there anything you care to add to that process? All right. Just a couple things. I would just comment that that you did a very nice job, Mr. Kraus, in summarizing the changes and expanding a little bit on them. That I would also add that the staff report was really well written, gave us a lot of detail, helped us understand the process and the conversation with the DRB and the planning staff. So that was an invaluable document to refer to as well. I think we've pretty much hit on our hot buttons. I love the idea of creating a responsiveness in terms of the red tag option on the part of a planning official. Flush that out a little bit more, think through, and run some scenarios in everybody's heads in terms of how it might work. And just working through the time frames, again, what we're fixing here is the old pendulum thing. Because we had a design review process that needed to be worked on. It got worked on. It went a little bit too far in terms of being very, let's say, a little more constrained. This gives a little more flexibility. It works a lot better. It allows staff to do a lot of, for lack of a better phrase, mediation. It prevents projects from having a whole, or should help prevent projects from having a ridiculous number of conditions. So I'm just really glad to see the process continuing to evolve. We've made our comments. I guess I'll just invite somebody to make a motion to recommend the changes to City Council and perhaps reference discussion made by commissioners. Mr. Sheets?
Yeah. I move that upon consideration of the proposed ordinance relating to design review, Planning Commission hereby recommends that the council adopt the proposed amendments to Title 30, Glendale Municipal Code, 1995, and also report the recommendations from the Planning Commission as far as upgrades and adds.
Second.
Motion support, call roll, please.
Moved by Ms. Landrigan.
Yeah.
Aye.
Commissioner Landrigan. Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Sheets.
Aye.
Commissioner Esayan.
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
I vote of 5-0. The Planning Commission has recommended that the City Council adopt zoning code amendment case PZON 2009-007. We'll go backwards on the agenda. We'll now go to agenda item 6. It's a zoning appeal. The next item is an appeal from the decision of the zoning administrator or the zoning hearing officer. It is heard as a de novo hearing. Testimony given at the zoning administrator's hearing should be repeated because the commissioner does not review the tapes of those meetings. Decisions rendered today will be based on the evidence presented at this hearing and the evidence in the file, including appeal documents, staff reports, and letters received. Individuals speaking today should therefore present all the evidence which they may wish this commission to consider. A handout describing the appeals process is available at the front counter. The appeal items are considered as public hearings. The commission will consider testimony from the appellant, applicant, staff, and any member of the public wishing to speak. If you wish to speak, please fill out a card and present it to the recording secretary. Okay, so with that said, we'll introduce variance case PVAR 2009-022. The location is 2036 Lilac Lane. The appellant and applicant is Samuel T. Hassan, who is also the property owner. The description is an appeal to overturn the zoning administrator's denial of a request for a variance, case number PVAR 2009-022, and to allow the construction of an addition to an existing two-story single-family residence in the interior setback area and without providing two covered and enclosed residential parking spaces at 2036 Lilac Lane in the R1R -2 restricted residential zone, floor area district 2, described as a portion of lot 8, tract number 7015. The project is exempt from CEQA. The recommendation is to sustain the zoning administrator's decision to deny, and staff is represented by Dennis Joe.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Allow me to approach the board to continue my presentation. Just to briefly go over the applicant's proposal once again. The request is for a variance to allow a 135 square foot addition located at the rear, and for it to continue the existing 3-foot interior setback line, which currently exists here. Also, the property has a 300 square foot garage measuring with a dimension of 17 feet wide. The depth of 17 feet and a width of 16 feet 8 inches, whereas a conforming garage is 20 by 20 at the interior dimensions. Just to go over the existing characteristics of the site, the subject site is a 5,104 square foot interior lot developed with a 2-story, 1,018 square foot single-family residence with an attached 300 square foot one-car garage constructed in 1937. The access to the property is taken from Lilac Lane. The subject property and the surrounding properties exhibit a staggered front yard configuration without a prevailing front setback along Lilac Lane. The topography of the site has an upward slope at the front and it gently inclines at the middle sections at the rear and the rear, in which the story has a 2-story profile along Lilac Lane when you look at it from here. However, it's a 1-story configuration as you go towards the middle and the rear. The existing non-conforming one-car garage is located at the front level of the home. Okay, now I'm going to go to the surrounding land uses. The surrounding land uses are from the east, south, and west are zone R1R, and to the north, along here, it's R1. All the surrounding properties are developed with a single family, or developed with single-family residences. Just to jump into the project history for this application, a variance application was submitted on June 3rd, 2009. On June 25th, staff had met with the applicant in person and reviewed the purpose of the variance findings and advised the applicant that the application lacked any substantial evidence to support the required findings in terms of the interior setback. On September 23rd, 2009, a ZA hearing was conducted. On October 29th, a denial letter was issued by the zoning administrator. Onto the basis of the zoning administrator's decision, the applicant, number one, the applicant failed to prove the proposed addition could not be moved 2 feet inside to meet the minimum interior setback, which is 5 feet by current today's standards, as it is a self-imposed hardship and difficulty. Number two, the subject site is rectangular in shape and accessed from a private road with no irregularities or any existing conditions that would prevent the structure from meeting required interior setbacks. No alternative solutions were submitted to prove that the addition could not be built as proposed without triggering the setback requirement. Number three, the addition would perpetuate the existing nonconforming condition. Number four, the granting of the variance would be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. If granted, it would allow the nonconforming structure with more additional square footage that is too close to the adjacent properties. The summary of the appellant's discussion is that the appellant didn't specify any new evidence or material facts not previously presented and is solely appealing the zoning administrator's decision. However, the appellant did offer to appeal on the appeal form that he is willing to withdraw one of the two variance requests, which is to omit the variance to allow the addition to be located with the minimum interior setback. So he's offering to move it 5 feet. However, this is an appeal to an application request to variance request. The application was denied as a whole. On to staff's analysis of the appeal. As mentioned within the ZA's basis of denial, the request is for an interior setback, which is believed to be a self-imposed hardship. The application didn't present any exceptional circumstances or unique conditions, explaining why the placement of the addition cannot be located with outside of the 5-foot setback. It's staff's opinion that the addition could conform with the 5-foot interior setback. Although there is a bathroom, an existing bathroom with an existing window right here, if this addition were to be pushed back an additional 2 feet and meet the 5-foot requirement, there is a window right here. However, building department did comment on stating if this were to be covered, this can be cured by mechanical ventilation. Because this is an appeal to a denied application, the applicant is requesting the Planning Commission to overturn the determination of the entire original requested application, which consists of 2 variances. If the Commission wishes to approve the setback variance, staff offers the following analysis. If the home were to provide a second fully enclosed parking garage here, it would present unnecessary hardships and practical difficulties, such as an additional variance would be required if you were to expand this further into the existing setback. Or 2, you would have to reconstruct this garage where existing floor area would have to be demoed and reconstructed, which substantial amount of reconstruction would have to take place. Staff believes the granting of not requiring a second covered and enclosed parking space will not be detrimental to the public welfare, nor will it be contrary to the objective of the ordinance. The intent of the parking chapter is to ensure that development provides adequate off-street parking and to protect the public safety by lessening traffic congestion of the public streets. Staff doesn't expect this 135 square foot bathroom addition would increase any parking demand. Again, if there's no approved building addition, the variance for the substandard garage should be denied. The appeal statement provide the
Administrator was the hearing officer. Ms. Fuentes?
Good afternoon.
I just have a question for you. In a situation like this, and of course now we're looking at 2020 hindsight, and we have an applicant who is, let's say, more willing to compromise, not more. Did it occur to you during your initial findings or decision to grant with conditions and basically deny the 3-foot setback, but allow the garage variance to stand? Had you thought about issuing it like granted with conditions?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Edith Fuentes, Planning Administrator. I did discuss some of those options with the applicant, and as a matter of fact, at the last minute, the applicant decided that he will just proceed with the original application. But we kind of look at, are you able to move this in or something? And like I said, his final determination was, I'd like to proceed with my original application, and that's how it happened, that we could find the findings right there for the garage, but we couldn't find the hardship in moving the addition 2 feet more to meet the setback requirements.
Okay, and my motivation for asking that is clearly that's an option in front of us today. And if you had made your decision along that lines, the applicant could consider, all right, I'll accept it as it is, I'll fix my addition, and he wouldn't have had to fork out, what is it, $1,100 now?
Exactly. We tried that.
You did try it, and that's all I wanted to hear, that
Yes,
you're
we
trying
did.
to cooperate with an applicant. Okay, all right, so he crapped out on the table, okay.
Yes, he did. Thank
His
you.
gambling parlance, all right. I thought I better clarify that. All right. You're about to, yeah. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, you now have 15 minutes to present your case, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hearing me today. My name is Sam Hassan. I'm the owner of the property. And with regard to your question, thank you for asking that. Because if you look at the transcripts, and if you look at the recorded video, I think Dennis Joe might remember this. Ms. Fuentes had asked me, would it be an additional hardship or undue hardship to move it a couple of feet in? I said, no, it won't, not really. My contractor got mad at me for saying that when we left this meeting, and I said, Jonathan, I want them to have the flexibility because I don't want to put them in a buttonhole straitjacket situation where I'm forcing a decision. And that's why I said that. I don't know what his reasons were, but my wife was there. We had that conversation in the parking lot. So if you look at the record, I did concede that. All right. Anyway, so now I'm coming with the concession I had already made to ask again. And may I go to the board for a moment just to show you a couple things?
Yes, you
because I'm familiar
can.
with my own home. May I have your stick? Thank you.
What's your step?
Yeah. Living with this for a long time. See, at the beginning, I thought, here's the back. Okay. This is the back of the house here? Yeah. Here's the bathroom window. I thought that by moving this addition, rather than coming along the existing wall of the bedroom, which is 3 feet off, I thought by moving it 2 feet further in, that the area between this door and out here would be so small that it'd be difficult for me to navigate. That's what I was thinking. But then I thought about it. I said, you know what? It's just as large as the existing bathroom, so it won't be a hardship for me. You know what I mean? So I said, okay, that's why I thought, okay, it won't be a hardship. But that was my reason for doing that. So by moving this further in by 2 feet, this area in here between this wall of the new addition and this door here will not be that small. As a matter of fact, a wheelchair and all that stuff can still be utilized.
You're anticipating that the window would be able to remain?
You know something? If I have to redo it, I'll redo it.
big deal.
There's not a big deal. This little roof here, I can go ahead and just tile it up and go on extend it out onto the existing new wall and make it design-wise, make it look nice. I mean, I'm not worried about the money. It's just a matter of how it looks aesthetically also. That's what I was thinking about. With regard to the parking, yes, Dennis Joe's completely right. That area is like a little cul-de-sac. Everyone knows each other. I mean, sometimes we even have 3 cars, one in the garage, one in the driveway, and one in the parking, the public street in front of the garage. So 3 cars can get there as a practical matter. Secondly, we're not adding any bedroom, any more living space. So in terms of occupants, it's not going to increase the number of occupants in the house, let's say, for example. It's like got 20 people living in the back room. But so I'm more than willing to go ahead and move it over by 2 feet if that was the only detrimental condition. And I did state that then because I had a little discussion with my contractor about it afterwards. And that's basically the gist of my proposal of my request here.
If you wouldn't mind returning to the podium, thank you. You actually have in our format a rebuttal period, so if there's something you think of that you want to add in a few minutes, you certainly can. Is there anything that you want to add at this time?
No, because it's real simple. There's nothing to really, make it complicated. And thank you for asking that question.
Giving you your time.
Because, thank you again. Yeah, I mean, it's simple, straightforward, and simply because the existing bathroom is kind of small, I'm anticipating as I get older and older and older, I'm going to need a little more space to navigate, so, Plus my wife would like to have more space, too.
Okay. Questions for the applicant? Mr. Lee?
When you mentioned that you need more space to move around, your existing bathroom is quite small. I'm assuming that, you're anticipating in the future you might be in the wheelchair or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll be moving by then, but I want to stay. I love where I live. I've been here since 1978. I love my home. I redid it, everything. I want to stay here so long as I can, and this is my home.
Right, because I saw the bathroom, the vicinity of the existing bathroom, and then your new proposed bathroom is not that far away. I mean,
no, but you have the two bedrooms. This additional bathroom would be to the master bedroom. That would be for the master bedroom. The other one could be a guest bathroom because there's no bathtub in that bathroom. There's only a shower, and there's no bathtub. This one will have the bathtub with the levers and everything, to navigate easily. Whatever age a person is, in that facility.
I guess I would just ask you, Mr. Sun, have you measured out the distance as far as how close the move would make that to your
in the
door,
actual
the door?
distance?
Yeah. Are you really sure that you're going to be able to get in and out there? That's not a problem.
Yeah, because we went over it as soon as we came home. We were looking at it, and as a matter of fact, I submitted pictures with the original proposal with the contractor standing both at what we wanted originally and what would be modified by the 2 feet. And you can get a pretty good idea from the photos I submitted in the back of the house what that distance is, and it's okay,
Okay.
I mean, if it weren't really okay, and if it was like, let's say it didn't meet the ADA standards, then I would come in and present that argument. But that's not what I'm doing here.
By moving it, you almost have adjoining bathrooms.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, are we deciding on the package as a whole like this, or are we considering actually 2 feet moving in?
We have the ability to, basically what we would do is we would either deny it in whole, or we would approve with conditions, and one of the conditions would be that he has to go with a 5-foot setback, if that's the direction you want to go in.
That's correct.
Any other questions at this time for the applicant? Thank you, sir. We'll actually see you probably in about a minute and a half, I suspect. All right. Any comments from staff regarding the applicant's position? I think you pretty much said it all. I don't think we need to belabor it unless you need to. Ms. Fuentes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, again, I just want to clarify that I had a last-minute conversation with the applicant to clarify about the 2 feet moving in, and he told me that he's going to maintain the 5 feet because I think he had a discussion with his contractor, as he mentioned. After issuance of the decision letter, that's when he called back to say he's now able to meet the additional 2 feet moving in. And I said, I think that's something you should offer to the Planning Commission. And that's where we are.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing else from staff? Anything from the applicant? No, nothing for rebuttal. So we'll close the public hearing. We'll enter deliberations. Who'd like to go first? Ms. Landrigan.
I'd like to ask a question.
We just closed the public hearing.
No.
No,
That's not a question of the public.
Okay.
If a person adds on to their property with a legal setback, is there a variance needed? Is this a variance that is based upon an increased FAR? I didn't see that in here.
Since there are two requests, the first request was to do an addition without upgrading the requirement of a second enclosed parking garage. So technically, yes, if they were to do an addition, even with a conforming setback, it would require a waiver from the enclosed parking space that requires an amount of 2.
So if we then, that's why I'm going there.
Okay.
if we are going to pursue the line of thought that you have proposed to us, then we would go forward and discuss approving the addition with a variance on the parking.
Right. Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly so.
I just wanted to be clear.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Now, we, of course, nobody may have noticed this, but we actually did reopen the hearing for that question, and so now we're reclosing the hearing. So, I'm just fighting through the rules of order. Hey, do you have a question for anyone? No.
It's a taskmaster.
Yeah, all right. Again, looking for comments? Mr. Lee, anything?
No, I guess we're ready to make the motion.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
Well, I do have a comment. I don't know how we can do that without the variance for the garage continuing on with the property. And so there would be a variance that would allow a non-conforming garage and any further other elements, so they would never have to come back for a variance for the garage if they were going to do another addition. That's also an issue that I see as something we need to put into the equation when we're considering this.
And I agree with what you're saying, and this would be, unfortunately, a night without Mr. Garcia in terms of some of the things we can try to condition around, but I'm willing to hear comments from staff. Again, staff's concerned about a future addition.
I think if you allow this, I think, if any type of addition they do in the future will go above their allowed FAR anyways. Right now, they're 0.345. They're drawing.
No, they've got 1,000 square feet currently on a 5104 lot. So they're about 20,
Well, they're in
25%.
the square footage calculation.
I'm sorry, what sheet are you on?
Exhibit,
Thank you.
Exhibit 3.
Gotcha.
So,
Well, all right, maybe staff can shed some light. When they include the existing dwelling as being 1324, why in our report are we being told it's 1018? Are they including the garage in their existing dwelling?
no, they're adding 300 square foot and above too, as a garage.
The garage is not included within the floor area ratio.
No, I understand that, but we've got on page 1 of the staff report, on the right under existing site characteristics, they talk about a 5,104 square foot lot, and then it has a 1,1018 square foot single family residence. Yet the information that we have in the exhibit is noted by Mr. Lee as the existing dwelling at 1323. And I'm questioning whether that existing dwelling at 1323 is inaccurate because maybe they included the garage without knowing our rules, or whether the 1018 is because your floor area ratio kicks in, as you suggested, Mr. Lee.
Yes.
So does anybody on staff or does the applicant happen to know?
I have.
Please approach.
To my knowledge, including the garage, because see, the garage is right below the living room. You got the garage, and then you got the living room right above it. Okay? As I understand it, the entire square footage is 1,260 foot. I'm sorry to put a new number here, but that's what I have on my deed and my title and stuff. It says 1,260 feet.
Excluding the garage.
No, including the garage.
Including the garage.
Yes, because I don't know if they can, you see, in other words, since the garage is below the living room, you're talking about the footprint of the structure, right? That's on the lot. So why would you double count the living room and the garage? Right? Correct. Is that right, Dennis?
If I may chime in, on title sheet A1, if you look at the structure, it says a two-story stucco house, existing footprint, approximately area including garage, 132354. It might have been a typo. It should have been 1,023 square feet. It's off about 5 square feet as far as my staff report.
So you think it's 1,023 on the existing dwelling?
That's correct.
And again, the way we do things in terms of FAR does not include the garage square footage, am I correct?
That's correct.
Right. So we are really dealing, this is what we're
That's the
trying to
number.
protect
Yeah,
against.
that's the number.
So he still has potentially a lot of square footage he could add. So, and I think, I'm guessing, since staff is worried about it, I'm not sure that we could condition no further additions. I'm thinking that's
Yeah,
overstretching.
You're correct, Mr. Chair. The non-conforming garage that you're going to approve today is for that addition. If at any time in the future, any other addition they will do is going to exceed lot coverage, floor area ratio, or again, get in trouble with setback, then we're going to have to revisit the non-conforming garage. So this approval is for this addition. And if they do any other addition in the future and still will be
So
within...
we're granting it with the associated addition.
Right.
It's linked to
Right.
that. All right.
And any other addition in the future that will still be under the maximum lot coverage, floor area ratio, meeting setback, they can keep that garage as it is.
Right. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Fuentes.
Do I have a question of clarification?
By the way, we reopened the public hearing about 5
I want to be very candid with you, okay? Because I'd like to, if I can, in the future, after this is done, is put a second bedroom above the existing bedroom. Now, so I want to bring it up here now just to talk about it. We're just talking about it, you know what I mean? I don't know how it works. So tell me, if the addition bedroom is above already the footprint, the existing
No, it
footprint.
doesn't have to do with footprint, it's living space.
Oh, living space, I see,
So
okay.
if you were to add that second bedroom,
Floor
Be a
area.
different, another business.
you'll get to spend quality time with planning staff again.
Okay, no, that's fine.
And you might get to
Dennis.
spend quality time with us again.
Exactly.
But just as an aside, since it's a theoretical conversation,
Yeah.
anytime somebody adds like bedrooms, that's a real serious thing for people to consider.
No, I know, you're right. No, I agree with you, I thought about it, but
Lord knows what would happen.
I don't know what's
but
going to happen, I'm just asking, you know.
Just one of the reasons that I think I'm sensing that we're in general favor for what you're doing is you're not adding living space
Living
per
space.
se. I mean, you are, but it's not a bedroom, it's a
Right.
bath.
That's right, that's
Exactly.
right.
Although he's talking about a separate project in the future, it would extend the height of an existing two-story home already because of the configuration it is. That would be a height, it'd be design review, and a setback because you're increasing the height. So,
Okay, they never really pushed the mustard.
Let's carry that. I don't believe that's considered a two-story home with a garage underneath, is it? Just
Well-
for what you had said. In theory, he could add another story to the front of that house because the garage doesn't count as a story, as long as he stays under, the 30-some feet.
30 feet height, I
Right,
think, or
right.
limit, yeah.
So, just to
That's for the
break that
future.
up. But that is for the future, but it's
Stay
fun talking
tuned.
about theory. Okay. We're reclosing the public hearing, hopefully for the last time, but we'll see. Would someone like to make a motion?
I can find it.
I see Mr. Lee's kept his glasses off. He's got that ploy going on.
You can always borrow mine.
They're making you work, Mr. Sheets. Nobody
I know,
else is moving.
Gosh darn it, we have three choices.
In motions?
Yes, we have a motion to deny, motion to approve, and then the third one is,
Oh, remand.
okay, so we want to do
Approve with conditions,
with conditions. So that would be the second one.
which means now you have to fight with the conditions a little
I know,
bit.
well, you guys can help me with that. I move that upon review and consideration of all materials and exhibits of current record relative to standards and setback variance case number PVAR 2009-022, located at 2036 Lilac Lane, and having conducted an appeal hearing on said matter, that the commission hereby reverses the zoning hearing officer's decision and approves the standards and setback variance case number PVAR 2009-022 based on the following findings. and with, it's not going to sound very technical, with condition that we allow the garage, we accept the garage as it is to be non-conforming for this project, and with the applicant or appellant agreeing to move add the additional bathroom in the 2 additional feet so it matches
The 5 foot
matches the appropriate setback.
Okay, you're allowing him the 3-foot setback instead of the 5? Is that what you were trying to say there?
No, I meant the additional 2 to make it, it's 3 now. So we want a 5-foot setback from the side.
Thank you.
To maintain.
That you want him to maintain the code-required
Correct.
5-foot setback.
Correct.
Yeah, when you said match, I think that triggered it.
Yeah, that threw it off.
Well, there was a long sentence going there. And
Yeah,
just
well,
wanted to
I was hoping
It's a
somebody
fine
was going
motion.
to rescue me there.
everybody was watching you swing.
There you go. That's what I get for taking so long to find this motion sheet. All right.
Next time, take your glasses
Having
off.
said having
All
said
right.
that.
Okay, so now we need
Help
to...
me.
Okay, so in support of your effort, we need to obviously make the findings,
4 findings.
or the 4 findings. On page 4 of the staff report, staff was kind enough to throw out some statements that help on that. And let's see if we can find it. Yeah, it's basically the last paragraph or so.
Right.
That given, and they all kind of blend into the 4 findings, but basically it goes to the fact that you've got, a specific lot with a specific topography, constrained space, existing improvements, and requiring a larger garage would create a practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship.
I couldn't have said it better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that's a friendly amendment to your motion, right? And the exceptional circumstances, again, are the specific topography of the site. It won't be material detrimental to the public welfare because we're adding a bathroom that will not increase intensification or occupancy, and it won't be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance, in that it allows someone to put on a justified addition to their property without inflicting damage or pain onto others.
May I
Build on that, please.
build on that? That to require the garage to meet the code would require to further impact a substandard setback. And encroach further into an adjacent
Well said.
property.
Okay. We have a motion with the findings made that will undoubtedly be well-crafted by staff when
Ms.
it...
Landrigan, can you please repeat your sentence?
I'll try.
Require the garage?
That to expand the garage would further extend into an already substandard setback and impact the adjacent property.
That forcing them to conform with current requirements...
Exactly.
...would actually create greater impact than leaving it the way it is.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're a good team.
Yes, we all are. Okay, aside from patting ourselves in the back, we have a motion with findings, looking for support.
Second.
We have support. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Landrigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheets,
Aye.
Commissioner Raffayan,
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye. On a vote of 5-0, variance case PVAR 2009-022 has been granted with conditions.
Thank you.
Where's my little
Very,
statement?
very much. I really appreciate this a lot. I really do. Thank you.
Where's the rest of them? Under the provisions of Chapter 288 of the Glendale Municipal Code, any person affected by the decision of the Commission has the right to appeal said determination to the City Council if it's believed that a decision is in error, or that procedural errors have occurred, or if there's substantial new evidence which could not have been reasonably presented at the hearing. An appeal must be filed within 15 days following the actual date of such action. Okay. We'll move on to agenda item 7B. I'm sorry, 6B. It's administration of exception case PAE 2009-009. It's 1455 California Avenue. The appellant and applicant is Kevin Lee, who's also the property owner. It is an appeal of the zoning administrator's denial of an administrative exception case, PAE 2009-009, to allow the construction of a minor addition and detached accessory living quarters without enlarging the existing substandard garage to meet the current code required. With the 20 by 20 clear interior dimension required in the R2250 medium density residential zone located described as portion of Lot 3, Sinclair and Schulholz tract. The project is exempt from CEQA. Staff recommendation is a motion to sustain the zoning administrator's decision to deny. Staff is represented by Dennis Joe. Overview, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman King, and members of the Planning Commission. I'm going to approach the board once again for my presentation. Once again, to briefly go over the applicant's proposal, is to construct a 99 square foot addition attached to the main the main structure, which is a single family residence. Also, to construct a 224 square foot guest house without providing a covered and enclosed parking space for an existing single family residence. The lot is relatively flat, regular in shape, and is located within a cul-de-sac. The lot is approximately 40 feet wide, 86 feet deep, and it has a total approximate area of 3,440 square feet. The existing 944 square foot single family residence is built with a detached single car garage and was developed in 1924. There are illegal additions at the rear, which are demonstrated on the existing floor plans, and are approximately 397 square feet in size. The applicant has indicated on the plans that these illegal additions will be removed. The surrounding zones, the properties are also R2250 and are developed with bungalow-style single-family residences also as well. There are previous applications on the site, one being a standards variance, which requested to construct a 256 square foot addition at the rear, which was attached, without providing a second, the required second enclosed and covered parking space. The zoning administrator reviewed this application and denied it back in July 2000. It appeared the appellant, which is the property owner, may be the same homeowner. However, it's unsure because the names are the same but in different order. To go over the history of the project, in March of 2009, Neighborhood Services Division had identified multiple violations on this property. So it's been going on for a while. Details of the history are detailed in my report. On to the basis of the zoning administrator's decision. The zoning administrator had denied this administrative exception request based on several factors. One, the proposed accessory guest quarters and the 99 square foot addition are disproportionate to the undersized subject property. And two, the project will perpetually preclude improvement of the property in full compliance of the zoning code regulations, specifically for parking. To the summary of the appellant's discussion, the appellant states that the proposed project and the submitted plans demonstrate the site will comply with zoning code requirements, specifically in terms of floor area ratio and lot coverage. Furthermore, the appellant contends that if a second fully enclosed parking space were to be provided, waivers from other sections of the code would be required, such as relief from interior setback requirements if you were to provide a two-car garage, interior dimensions of the garage, or an hour turn and radius, which staff does agree. On to staff's analysis, staff believes if the project had solely proposed a 99 square foot addition to the main structure, the required three findings could have been made and viewed in a positive manner. However, staff agrees with the zoning administrator that the proposed 224 square foot guest house will eliminate a potential possibility for the property to conform to code. The intent of the administrative exception application is to provide consideration of small projects, propose minor additions less than 100 square feet without providing code required amount of parking spaces. Staff believes the proposed guest house intensifies the project beyond the intent of the administrative exception. Instead of utilizing the last available areas of the property to provide the required fully enclosed parking space. The project proposes to the project proposes to construct an accessory guest quarters. Although the accessory guest quarters does not require additional parking, it was included in the administrative exception application and thus has an impact on the request for the waiver of the parking requirement. The decision rendered in this case and the previous variance application has been consistent. Staff recommends the Planning Commission sustain the zoning administrator's decision and deny the administrative exception. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for staff at this time? See none at this moment. We'll continue with the public hearing. The applicant, Kevin Lee, or Bang Lee, whoever, has 15 minutes to present their case.
Good evening, Planning Committee, ladies and gentlemen, Planning Committee. After receiving the letter and...
I'm sorry, and your name?
Kevin. Sorry,
Just
Kevin.
clarifying who we had in front of us. Thank you.
After receiving the letter and thinking it over with my family, we're willing to not build a guest house and just do the 99 square feet addition, just to bring the house back up to code, because currently right now there's an illegal addition in the rear that needs to be removed, and after removing that, we would build the 99 square foot with all the proper setbacks and just bring the back to code.
So you will not construct a guest house, is what you're suggesting?
It seems to me the way the denial was written that the guest house would impact the safety of the neighborhood. I personally don't see that, but just to make things move along, bring the house back up to code, make the neighborhood the way it should look, uniform with the rest of the houses. I'm willing to not build the guest house in the back.
Okay, procedurally, then again, it'll be very similar to the first case. I'm going to just interrupt your case for a second to discuss this with staff. So again, this is going to be very similar to a previous case that we heard where a gentleman wanted a 135-foot addition. I think we were all on the board at that time, the commission at that time, since it was about 15 minutes ago. And again, we can link the addition, we can link the allowing the garage to the addition, so that if he ever came in front of us or came in front of planning or building department for a guest house, it would still trigger potential issues with the garage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. Yes.
Please.
Does 99 square foot addition trigger a parking requirement, though?
Well,
I thought 250 square feet triggered it.
Anytime you make an addition, whether it's 1 square foot and you have a non-conforming amount of parking spaces, you need to update the number of parking spaces. However, this is an administrative application where it originally didn't require a public hearing, since it's such a minor addition. However, based upon the evidence and the plans reviewed, the zoning administrator had denied it based upon the facts, based upon my staff report.
So what will happen with the illegal? Illegal addition if we approve the 99 square foot?
The illegal additions are noted also. They're shown as the existing portion. I had the architect or the designer demonstrate what exactly is going to go on, what's exactly going on today, and what are you proposing. And he has proposed on his application to remove those illegal additions and propose that 99 square foot addition. Also, but in this case, it's with that guest house.
Well, you're taking the wind out of, I think, all our sails. Ms. Landrigan.
Yeah, would you restate that?
So I just want to be sure, because we don't have a plan that shows that then. So would I assume that if we are going to, what we're discussing now is this plan with the garage staying in its non-conforming place, the 2 additions, and nothing where I see the guest house? Is that what you are proposing?
So that guest house
It would be
removed.
that site without the guest house showing, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I would love to build the guest house. I mean, we played around with it to try to put a 2-car garage on the lot, like rotating it, pushing it back. But we can't push it back all the way back because there's a utility pole behind it, and there needs to be at least a 5-foot area where...
And you've got to swing into the garage.
Yeah,
There's-
swing into the garage. So there's really no way to put a two-car garage, but the driveway is long enough to park 3 cars, and then including the garage, a 4th car. So the way we originally planned on the designs is to build a guest house, which didn't trigger additional parking because we had such a long driveway, and it wouldn't really bother the neighbors at all anyways. That's our original method. But it seems that just to get the paperwork moving, it'd be better just to not build a guest house right now, or maybe revisit it after we bring up the house to code first.
Anything's possible once you brought it up to code,
Yeah.
Will. Again, that's theory at that
Yeah.
point. Okay.
For housekeeping purposes, if you're not building the guest house, what will you have there? Just grass?
Read my mind.
If you look at the photos, the front of the house, we keep a lot of live plants. Our grass is the greenest in the neighborhood. So if we didn't have the guest house, yeah, it'd probably have some grass or some living entities in the back.
Well, and Ms. Landrigan's hit on it. In terms of what we're approving and what we're not approving, and the information in front of us, and as has Mr. Lee, we kind of have to work over what's happening in your backyard. We see the addition, great. Now you have a collection of hardscape and where the guest house was shown. Now we're saying, okay, that's going to be, you said probably landscaped. We'll probably say, yeah, will be. And conditioning. I don't want to necessarily micromanage how you fix it without having a guest house, but I think it might be okay to condition that at least the square footage of the guest house as shown on the plan needs to be landscaped, whether it's in that particular configuration or not. Okay? Something like that? Is that necessary? Thoughts? Staff?
You can make it as clear as you want it to be,
Okay.
to
Right,
guide
Mr.
everyone.
Sheets?
Yeah, and to lead, it's kind of before the topic at hand right now, but in looking at this, it's proposed, but I don't see it on the motions yet, that almost half of this, if you look at the map, almost half of this has area that's going to be removed.
That's correct.
Illegal additions.
So
yes.
we need to make sure, I mean, that's the major part of this project, is take all the things that are illegal out. And then it leads into, I guess, what you're just bringing up. What goes in its place?
That the removals as shown on Exhibit 2 be completed.
Yes.
And that the hardscape, that the guest house is no longer part of the action, and that the final configuration of the hardscape and where the guest house was, I'm mumbling there, but basically we want to work through that, we get landscaping
Yeah,
back.
that's what
and
because
not
my guess is if these pictures, if I'm reading them correctly in the map, that is literally hardscape.
right now.
Yes. So I don't know if that's appropriate. I don't know if
Well,
we've created some windows that we need to look at.
And also, within regards to his rights, let's say,
Uh-huh.
do we know what the current landscaping ratio is for the property? Is that presented to us somewhere?
I believe the required by code is 25%. I can double check that for the zone.
Would he have to, right here it says it's 29%.
They're showing 29%.
That's even with the guest house, so.
Yeah, it's 25% from what I recall. Because I remember double checking the map.
I'm not sure then if I feel the need to micromanage landscaping versus guest house. It's up to the commissioners in terms of what their feelings are.
Just as clarification, in the R2250, the landscaping minimum requirement is 25%.
Thank you. Ms. Landrigan?
Will, I see on the A1 here that we have a large percentage being removed. Then we have a symbol that shows landscaped area, but it's not shown anywhere. Are the areas that are shaded on here to be the landscape?
I think it
it is.
the dots are more dense than what
Right.
his key is.
The shaded areas on the drawing with the guest house, like on the rear of it, on the side of it, it extends on the side of the house into the front lawn. That's the landscape that's used to calculate the area.
Okay. All right. That's just my question.
It's just more dotted.
Oh, okay. Well, so now you're proposing that. sounds to me like you're kind of done with your presentation right now. Well, you have a rebuttal period. I want to ask staff a few questions.
Sure.
Staff, what's your opinion? What's your position in terms of the 99 square foot application on the basis of not constructing the guest house? How does staff view that as a application?
It was mentioned in my staff report. It clearly, I mean, verbatim, it says, staff believes that the project has solely proposed a 99 square foot addition to the main structure. The required 3 findings made by the applicant could have been viewed in a positive manner. However, that guest house was included with the application. Therefore, we included it within our analysis.
Okay, we actually have 2 paths here. We could browbeat this and think of conditions and so on, or we could remand to the zoning administrator, and she could work through it and reissue it with the 99 and put in all her really smart qualifications and so on. So, unless I hear an opinion to the contrary, and again, you'll have a chance to weigh in here a second, I favor remanding and letting staff do the professional thing with it.
I agree.
I do too.
I like your style.
All right. Okay, that's kind of commentary. So, now you have a rebuttal period. Right now, and frankly, we'd like to hear from you on this. You have 2 options. Well, you have more than that, but one option is that we sit up here and we start thinking of things and doing whatever, and it sounds like there's a sentiment on the part of the board to allow you the 99 square feet, and everything else goes away, no guest house and so on. But there's also a sentiment on the board that we'll just remand it and let you spend some quality time with the zoning staff, the planning staff, to just work through the 99 square feet and make sure everybody's got a good project. And we kind of favor that. Do you have a feeling one way or another?
I mean, if we're just adding the 99 square feet, I don't see the need to spend additional time looking that part over. It meets all the setback requirements. It's clearly written in the code that the process that you need to do just to add 99 square feet. So, I mean, without the guest house, I see this as a really straightforward project that doesn't need to go back to the zoning administration. It's just, to spend more time, while the house is not in code yet. I just feel it's just another holding period, really.
Question?
I have a question for you guys.
Oh, all right. Okay, we're going to allow you more rebuttal time, but
Sure.
we're going to go ahead.
What's the purpose of putting it back to the zoning administrator?
Well, and I want to check as well.
Yeah.
With an administrative exception, does the zoning staff impose conditions and stuff, or is it just the up or down?
We can impose conditions.
All right. Based on what you're hearing, Ms. Fuentes, do you think there's a benefit to remanding, or shall we just handle it up here and be done with it?
I think you can handle it right here.
Just asking. Then I'd
Thank
be
you.
happy with that. Because the other thing is, if we remand it to you, is there notification? Is there advertising? But there's definitely time involved.
We will not renotice, but it'll be just meeting between the case planner and myself.
Okay. All right.
And,
And we'll talk about it when we close the public hearing, but there's clearly a sentiment on the part of the applicant to proceed with us this evening. Is there anything else you'd care to add before we close public hearing, or are there questions for the applicant?
Ms.
Fuente?
Mr. Chair, just to kind of let you know where I was coming from when I made the decision. What really bothered me with the case was this was heard in 2000. The same violations existed to this date when I went out there to do the inspection for the administrative exception. That's why I think when Dennis and I kind of brainstormed on the case, had it been just the 99 square foot addition without the guest house, we could have approved it right there and then. But what happened is the variance that was denied was a little bit less in square footage than what they're asking right now. So this is going to trigger intensification of the square footage on the property, restricting more provision of parking, and this was even more than what was denied previously in 2000. So if you're inclined to approve the administrative exception, make it clear it's the 99 square foot addition only, no guest house, correction of the violations, and you can also impose deadlines as far as when those violations should be corrected. And that's maybe the recommendation we would do right now.
Well, part of the violations, this is an interesting question. Part of the violations includes the removal. Now,
Exactly.
typically, you can't get a demolition permit unless you kind of have a new project to follow it in many ways. But since this isn't even permitted, do they actually get a permit to demolish something that's not permitted to begin with?
Well, building and safety will normally require a demolition permit to be pulled out.
Okay. So even though what he put in isn't permitted, what he takes out has to be. All right.
Yes, we just want to make sure it's done properly.
Sheets?
I know we're making an effort to streamline the process, but just in listening to the last conversation and thinking back in my confusion, not only studying this information, not that this is a grandiose issue, and then listening to the testimony, I appreciate the report done by the staff. I think they're very thorough and very complete, but I wanted to go back and forth as to what we're trying to do in this hearing. And I see it's stratified. I see that we're going to remove items, which in some ways shouldn't be related to this case, other than it's being directed to be done. But I don't know what that means. It's not removing a window or removing a door. It's removing items that are over 50% of the property, approximately. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what we're agreeing to do. And in addition to that, I would, based on the fact that you can view the staff report a couple of ways. One, they've given good direction, a lot of detail, but it also states in the report, just like the previous report, that if one or two of the items would have been a different way, the findings would have been okay. It makes me think that maybe I'm leaning towards remanding it, I guess, so we can get the professionals to look at what the items are, decide if we want to. Just the last question: do you actually know whether you need to get a permit to do the demolition? I don't know.
Yeah. And we can walk them through the process. The only thing we're saying is some of the applicants, when they receive the denial letter, they start making changes and amendments.
I understand. And that just supports
right.
the idea that this has been going on so long.
Right.
And there are a number of things. I think we need to make a checklist as far as what needs to be done and need to do it
I want to make sure.
as far from a staff perspective, and then have the applicant or the appellant completely understand what all those items are. That's just my look right now.
We'll walk them through the process.
I'm not sure everybody else feels the same way, but that's...
Mr. Lee, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question or I guess / comment. That is that I don't know if the administrative exception is a right avenue that we need to take this. So I'm looking at the granting of the exception will result in design improvements. I cannot justify or find any conditions that by adding 99 square foot will improve the design of the house or improve the house appearance. So already I was trying to develop some sort of a language granting this, variance. Now, if, any type of addition triggers parking requirement or the garage, variance, then you need to go through the proper variance procedure rather than the administrative exception. So I don't know if this is the right path to take. If you come before us and, ask us to make the decision, and, you do have right now illegal, construction in the back and all that, and I guess, the project history, what I'm looking at goes only back to 2009, but she says it goes back to 2000. So, it's becoming a little bit difficult for me to start to look at this thing under the administrative exception. Whereas if the prior case was actually the parking existing parking garage, that variance, and that was That was something that we, we're not really setting precedents, but, we allowed it because of the, the bathroom addition. And in this case, it's a bathroom addition too, but I don't know if this is the, I guess to conclude, what I'm trying to say is that I cannot find finding for that, condition A.
Let me ask something, too, and we'll have staff weigh in on Mr. Lee's comments. The reason this is administrative exception is it's 99 square feet?
Correct.
If it was 101 square feet, it would become a standards variance?
Correct.
Okay. So that's why the applicant was smart to keep it at 99 versus a larger. Okay. Now, was there anything else on what Mr. Lee said that staff would want to clarify or expand upon?
No, and like I said, if you feel remanding it to us will work better for the applicant to clarify all the other pending issues, then we'll be more than happy to work with the applicant and walk them through the process.
Do we have a question for the appellant?
I have a question for you. What you just said about over 105?
Staff had, what's the, I always thought it was 100 feet, but.
Is it 100 feet?
No. There's
For
a cut.
administrative exception, 100 square
So if
feet.
it's after 100 square feet,
It becomes a variance. Because the administrative exception is supposed to be for just minor and small additions. And anything beyond that is thrown into the variance process.
I guess my interpretation is that, the little addition that you're making will improve the look of the house, improve the, overall
Right.
architecture of the house. But
Yeah. Don't forget, when this case was reviewed by the case planner and myself, it includes the guest house and the 99 square feet. So
So
that
I'm
was
still a little
taken as a
confused.
whole.
when it's 99 square feet, it doesn't need the variance?
Not the full variance public hearing, just an administrative
light.
exception. Yeah.
Right, there's flexibility in the code for minor additions, and the code specifically says a maximum of 100 square feet. So Chairman Kane's correct. Once it goes to 101, then it would require variance.
So what does it do to the parking requirement?
Well, there's several reliefs within the administrative exception, and one pertaining to this application is that you're going to be requesting to do a minor addition, a maximum of 100 square feet, without providing a second fully enclosed parking garage.
So that's the exception.
That's the exception.
So what if he comes back again and says, I want to do another 99 square feet?
It only accounts for a one-time deal.
Oh, one time.
Anytime, yeah.
I got it.
But that's, geez, do you think people would actually try that? All right, we've bandied about here a little bit. Just in terms of formal process, is there anything else in terms of the rebuttal? Is there anything that you want to add in terms of your case?
What Mr. Lee said about design improvement, I mean, design improvements also include the usability of the home at the same time, right? So with the addition of the second bathroom, that enables, a person to use a bathroom at the same time as another person. I mean, it would make getting ready for work in the morning easier if you have two people that have the jobs that start at 8 o'clock. One person's getting ready at the same time. You got to wait till the other person finishes up, and that type of stuff. So that's what I'm seeing when I'm looking at design improvements, just the overall usability of the home, which the 99 square feet would do. Add a second bathroom. I understand that the lot is small and the home is quite old, 1920s. But with the second bathroom, it would definitely enhance life. Whoever's living there.
And perhaps I can stir thought here. It's basically fact-finding A says the granting of the exception will result in design improvements, or there are space restrictions on the site which preclude full compliance with code requirements without hardship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out as well.
And the second part, the code compliance, putting a two-car garage, it's just not possible without a couple variances being looked the other way. The 5-foot setbacks for the garages, around the property line for the rear and the side, and rotating it, might be able to do it, but it only provides 20 feet back of space instead of 25 feet required by code. So, other than that, it's just tearing down the house and just building a two-car garage and then designing the house out that way, which is way, way more expensive than adding a 99 square foot addition.
Ms. Lander?
Well, my question to the applicant and to the zoning administrator is this. By adding the 99 square feet, and I looked at the parking studies here, would you preclude ever being able to put in a two-car garage? To me, that seems to be the biggest question. Should we allow the 99 square feet and never ever be able to allow an appropriate parking use? I think an administrative exception in this area, which is where you would definitely, you could get variances and put in a legal, workable two-car garage, we will preclude it by putting in the 99 square feet. I have a concern with that.
Well, you would require the variances, and I'm not sure if you get the turning radius.
I think you could if you
I just don't know.
shunted it this way. You would have to have a variance for this setback and this, but you would have enough to do the turning radius.
Keep in mind that there is a utility pole that needs to have access to, and that is in the back area.
Where is it in the rear?
Just right behind the garage on the...
Okay, it's on the back side. Yeah.
If I may add, if we're talking about a potential project of ever adding a two-space enclosed garage on the site, keep in mind that the lot is only 40 feet in width. There's an interior dimension. If the lot is width less than 50 feet, you could have some relief of the interior dimension of a depth of 18 feet. However, there's a backup requirement of a turning radius of 25 feet. So if you got that 25 plus that 18 interior dimension, it's going to require some type of hardship, whether it's going to be turning radius, interior dimensions, setback, which the setback, if you were to put a detached garage, it would be 5 feet from the property line in this zone.
Okay, any other questions? Any other statements on your part, sir?
No, not really. Just other than, like, we've looked at the scenarios for the two-car garage, and it's not going to happen. Like, without 3 variances at least being looked the other way or being waived. And with that, that's why we decided to use that space as a guest house. But even without the guest house, we just want the 99 square feet just to enhance the home, and of course, just to bring the whole process to a wrap, bring the property up to code. That's it.
All right, any other questions for the appellant/applicant? All right, other than you're up here, I kind of alluded to it earlier. Based on the history of this property and everything that doesn't look like it was going along very well, I think you would have had a very high hill to climb. And I'm encouraged that I think you recognize that, and that you've kind of taken the guest house off the table.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, like, back in 2000, that time I was my teens, so I could not assist my parents into dealing with the case. So at that time, when they did the appeals for it, they mistakenly thought they were approved for it, and that's why it was never looked at again until 2009. So it's just a mistaken paperwork on reading on their end. So that's why we revisit it now, trying to bring up the house to code. So that's the reason why the long period and gap from 2000 to 2009.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Any closing comments from staff?
None at this time.
Any last questions that we can think of right now for staff? Okay, we'll close public hearing. We'll enter deliberations. Who'd like to start off with their thoughts and comments on how we might want to proceed? Mr. Lee?
I have my glasses on.
We'll count on you for a motion then eventually.
That's what I was working on. Since the appellant has taken the guest house off the list, and the staff and the applicant also, alluded to the fact that the space restriction as a condition A, which I'm inclined to agree with, that it is an improvement in their living style. Now it is a bathroom addition, so it is not going to intensify or impact the parking situation. So I'm inclined to go in the direction of reversing the ZA officer's decision, approving this with conditions. That without, in place of the guest house, that there will be the landscape area in the same area.
With the 99 square feet.
Yeah, 99 square foot addition.
Approving 99 no guest house, and that the square footage of the guest house be devoted to landscaping.
That's correct.
Okay?
I agree with everything he just said.
Did he state the removal of all the other, I mean, since it is on this, do we have to identify as a condition the removal of all other?
Well, we haven't made a motion yet, but when we
do
do make it, that might be a good thing to.
If I may add, Neighborhood Services had identified multiple.
Reopen the public hearing.
Neighborhood Services had identified other issues, so if you condition that all illegal or unpermitted work be cured, there are illegal windows. I think there's AC units in the front setback. And there may be other unpermitted things. I don't have a full laundry list of that, but that may weigh in the factor as far as that condition.
Okay. We're going to close the public hearing, continue with deliberations. Mr. Sheets?
Yes. If I look at this from the standpoint of the 99 feet and not having to change the garage, I think the garage is an issue that is going to be extremely difficult. And if you choose to go further and add to the house and make major renovations, that would be the time to try to get the appropriate size garage. I just don't see that being something that can be achieved right now. But I'm still having problems with the time frame, the illegal attachments, and now the additional information brought forward by the staff regarding items that have not even been mentioned now. And I'm leaning to not support approving right now. That's pretty much all.
All right. Ms. Landerkin?
I'm not in favor of approving.
Primarily because of the potential of a future garage, or what was your concerns?
Well, I think that I look at it in incrementally making it worse instead of making it better. So yes, that is.
How do you see it? How do you see it making worse incrementally?
Well, adding on the 99 square feet impacts the rear yard, which would then be, at the moment, the only place you could improve the parking requirement. So I see it does improve the standard of living, but I also see it as being a very minimal cure, and it also would preclude a true cure. And to me, I see an administrative exception serving certain purposes in an area where it's not going to impact any future development of the property, and to me, this does affect that, and I have reservations about it for that reason.
Okay, I respect what you're saying, Commissioner Landrigan, but the potential, and I really like the idea of worrying about potential, unintended consequences, all the things that slip in. But when I look at what a code standard garage would require, at some point in the potential future, it's going to definitely require variances no matter what happens. So I see that as a potential issue in the future, but it's going to be an issue regardless. And if we see some major project, or let's say some attempt at design creep, well, he's got his 99 feet. He'll never come back with that ploy again. But if I see a potential project in the future, whoever's on the Planning Commission at that time is going to be looking at this history. And they are going to be as wise, if not wiser, than the five of us up here, you would hope. And, I would deal with that eventuality in the future. What I look at right now is, and again, I really started off going, I can't believe what this property's gone through for the last few years. This is not a good neighbor type of thing. But I'm sensing contrition, or I'm willing to sense contrition. They're cleaning things up. It's a 99 square foot addition that's giving them a bathroom in a house that has one bath. And in these times, allowing somebody to have a second bath, I'm comfortable with. Now, the other part of that, though, and we have had justified concerns up here, is given the history of the property, and even though it may take a little longer to work through the process, and even though staff doesn't seem to be very happy about doing it, I'd still recommend remanding and letting them turn over every stone, letting them deal with all the little issues that's gone on with neighborhood services, making sure that they're dotting I's and T's that we're not going to catch in the course of an hour conversation. And it may slow the appellant down a little bit, but by the same token, it's going to guard against the things that some of us are bringing up about the what-ifs.
I would be in favor of remanding. I am not in favor of approving it.
I agree.
Conditions
At this time?
at this time.
Okay, so that said, I'm sorry.
What are the little things that would be tweaked? That's what I don't get. If it goes back to
Well, part of it is I don't know what those would be.
yeah.
But in the course of the neighborhood services issues and the building permit issues and just the opportunity for staff who has, time in their day to sit back and really reflect and also has an understanding of the history of the project. I mean, we're dealing with this in a half hour or an hour. We're not catching everything. And I'm saying, and even though staff may not come up with anything new, let's give them that opportunity to work through it.
So it's going to go back to zoning administrator?
And they will re-review it.
Yeah.
They will issue a decision. And if the applicant likes it, it's over. If he doesn't like it, we'll see him again.
Well, Mr. Chair, one of the concerns I have, it's not addressed here, and it's certainly not going to be even addressed if it's remanded because this is a public hearing. But if the public hearing, if there were individuals who were concerned, and oftentimes if there are the violations that we have seen there are public concerns of the neighbors. That's not recorded in the staff report or in any of the history that we received. So if there's a smaller impact on the neighborhood, I'm sure that it's probably going to be received somewhat more favorably. But to me, it seems that what we're reviewing here, I mean, we do have those options. I would rather remand it. That's where I'm coming from, and I understand that there may or may not be the agreements that are reached there, but to me, it seems messing with this and the smaller things here, and we don't even have a site plan that's accurate. To me, those are things I feel very uncomfortable with.
And actually, the lack of an accurate site plan is of concern to me as well. So, again, what I'm hearing in consensus, and I'll ask for a motion in a minute, is that it remand to the zoning administrator that we think 99 square feet without the guest house is certainly, a reasonable thing for her or he, whoever happens to hear the case, with the applicant, and Godspeed, for lack of a better phrase.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Any other comments? No. All right, motion, please.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I move that upon review of new and additional information given by the appellant relative to administrative exception case number PAE 2009-009, located at 1455 East California Avenue, that the Planning Commission hereby remands the appeal back to the zoning administrator for reconsideration of an administrative exception case number PAE 2009-009 in accord with the findings set forth in the decision letter of this is not part of it. So I guess what we want to say is that now that with the approval of 99 square foot addition.
No, I think we just basically remand.
Just remand, okay.
I don't think we have to work.
Yeah, okay. Well, the decision letter was September 22nd, 2008.
Motion seeking support?
I second it.
Motion support. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Landrigan.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Sheets.
Aye.
Commissioner Yesayan.
Aye.
Chairperson Kate.
Aye, and a vote of 5-0, the Planning Commission has remanded PAE 2009-009 back to the zoning administrator for reconsideration.
Breaking time.
All right.
Thank you.
I've lost my agenda, but I'm guessing it's planning department. Oh, thank you. Planning department updates.
The city council did remand back to the planning commission the parcel map at 2246248 Rafael Terrace.
Is there any chance we can remand that back to the zoning administrator?
Back to the council.
Which project is it?
Huh?
I'm sensing a trend.
The one with the small cul-de-sac up top at the hill. You wanted to build two homes.
Oh, that's the one that I walked out on.
Yeah. What
Go ahead.
What happens if
You'll be hearing it again.
just you hear it again?
Well, there was supposedly new evidence, or new information,
Okay.
new facts. So I think that's the
That
lead-in.
was the gist of for it.
Similar to the new facts that prompted us to remand the previous
Yeah, right.
case.
So,
Exactly.
if whatever decision we make in the next one, can he appeal that again
Yes,
to city council?
yes.
And then city council can.
They could. I don't know that they would, but they could.
Potentially, you could retire on this case. What's coming up at our next meeting?
Right now, I believe we have 3 cases that are scheduled for the next meeting, no appeals.
I'm sorry, 3 cases, no
We have
appeals?
3 cases, none of them are appeals,
So what?
3 projects.
Oh, okay.
This project?
Yeah,
Like-
3 projects. I believe there's well, I don't have it with me, but I believe one's a street vacation, and there's 2 other ones. I didn't
Okay.
write it down.
But no appeals, okay.
Is the billboard ordinance coming up?
The billboard ordinance is coming up. I'm not sure if it's the next meeting or the meeting after that.
Is that the sign overlay?
Yes.
Until we get a letter from the Attorney General.
Well, yeah.
Is that street vacation project the one that has a hairpin turn?
I don't know it that well.
All right. Comments from commissioners? Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
7 o'clock.
Wow.